Wednesday, September the 4th, 2019. Clerk, please call the roll.
Calling the roll, Ms. Conwell. Here. Mr. Jones.
Here.
Ms. Brown.
Here.
Ms. Stevens. Ms. Stevens is absent at the moment. Ms. Simon. Ms. Simon is absent at the moment. Ms. Baker.
Here.
Mr. Miller.
Here.
Mr. Tuma.
Here.
Mr. Gallagher. Mr. Schron. Mr. Schron is absent at the moment. Council President Brady.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there any public comment?
Yes, Mr. President. Ms. Lou.
All right.
I was just thinking that.
Thank you. Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm glad to be here to see all the familiar faces here, the people who are here answering the call of public service, helping people. Yes, we have multiple issues ongoing in our county. Finally, something may happen to certain issues, but something are still not happening for some other issues. Yesterday morning, 7 a.m. at a shelter on the Payne Avenue, you have this person cussing, fussing, dragging her own hair. She was totally upset, and you can tell something was agitating her very badly. She and we passed each other. At that moment, I had a familiar feeling that I would probably get beaten up by her, just like lots of the times happened before. However, this time, this person, instead of turning around to get me, it was another person, also not very big, getting beaten up very badly. Shelter service actually is important to help people out. However, after the 13 years of the previous service providers till now, nothing has ever been changed. Because fundamentally, just like our county jail problem and some other issues, if you keep the same mistakes going again and again, nothing will get changed. So if there's no funding, there's no other resources can help that, how about think about changing the method by itself? Having a service provider definitely is not solving the problem, actually that compound the problem. With my incident, for example, with this arm, I still cannot even get a bus pass to go to Metro Health for appointments, or even nowadays they call occupational therapy. Sure, getting your elbow dislocated is not an occupation, but as what Mr. Strong have told us, a job is a job. Same thing. A life is a life, a health issue is a health issue. If we don't pay attention to the overall situation and we only pinpoint one dot here, one dot there, the problem will never be solved together. So I'm here to wish you guys continue doing all good work. However, the public hearing for our budget is coming up. I wish we can actually improve the way we use our fundings to get some of the serious services properly funded to help the people in need. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Madam Clerk,
There's no one else.
okay. Then let the record reflect that Councilwoman Simon and Councilman Schron are present. Next item is executive session. All meetings of the Cuyahoga County Council are open to the public under the Ohio Open Meeting Laws. Under that law, council may go into executive session during a meeting for specifically authorized purposes. During executive session, council confers outside of the hearing of the public. Council may not make any decisions about any matters in executive session. All decisions are made in public. This afternoon, the council will go into executive session to discuss pending or imminent litigation. During this time, our live stream will be down, and we ask all those not needed for the executive session to remain in council chambers. Council members will convene in the adjacent committee room A. We will re-enter the meeting once the executive session is ended. Is there a motion to go into executive session for the purpose of discussing pending or imminent litigation? So moved. Been moved and seconded. Would the clerk please call the roll?
Moving to executive session, Ms. Conwell.
Yes.
Mr. Jones.
Yes.
Ms. Brown. Ms. Stevens? Ms. Stevens is still absent at this time. Ms. Simon?
Yes.
Ms. Baker?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Tuma?
Yes.
Mr. Gallagher?
Yes.
Mr. Schron?
Yes.
Council President Brady?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay. All right, you guys. Ask for a 5-minute break before we continue the meeting, since we're sort of getting reorganized and taking on a different, some different issues. Okay, so we'll see you in about 5 minutes. We have legislation introduced by the executive, consideration of resolutions for first reading under suspension of rules. Could I have a motion to suspend the rules?
Mr. President, move to suspend the rule.
Moves have been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, the rules have been suspended. Clerk, please read the resolution.
Resolution number 2019-0177, repealing resolution number 2019-0144 dated July 23, 2019, and providing for the submission to the electors of the County of Cuyahoga an amendment to repeal Section 5.08 and enact Article 16 of the County Charter to provide for additional requirements of the sheriff and establishing the powers, duties, qualifications, residency, term, and removal process of the office, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
All right. We have Randy Carney here to present for the administration.
Good afternoon, Council. Brandy Carney, Chief of Public Safety and Justice for the county. So the resolution in front of you today is requesting one change from the resolution that was previously in front of you regarding the sheriff. We are requesting that the sheriff not be required to have resided in the county prior to be appointed for his position. And the main reason for this request is to open up the candidate pool so we can ensure the larger candidate pool, the best option to get the best person in the sheriff's position when we do try to identify that person. So again, the current legislation requires 1 year prior to being appointed sheriff, you are to reside in the county. We are instead asking that there's no requirement for residing in the county prior to appointment.
Okay. Questions by the council?
So I can agree with that part, but once they're appointed, is there some kind of language in there that says that they need to move to the county?
So I think we can defer to the law director if you're okay on this. We just talked about some other ORC that's relevant here, if you're okay, law director.
Certainly. Let me just say that,
Oh.
maybe for a little clarification, the issue has sort of bubbled up about whether the state's residency laws would come into play if we amend this legislation, and there's some concern by some that may occur, and so we're looking for some, along those lines, we're looking for some guidance about on this issue.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Certainly, Mr. Chairman of the council, there's a provision in the code, in the revised code, 9.481, that simply says that you can't require, any municipality, any local government can't require an appointee or an employee to live in any particular place. So that's a type of a general law that I really think we can't change through our charter. And we can, however, under that section of the code say, okay, you have to live in the county or an adjacent county, but we can't otherwise get more specific than that through the charter. So this does not establish any requirement for residency, but then in this case, we would turn to, in my opinion, you'd turn to the general law, 9.481 of the revised code, to determine where then the ultimate appointee would live.
So I guess, the law director, you feel confident that if we were to amend this legislation, that there would be no risk involved in the charter being challenged around the issues of residency?
Well, Mr. Chairman, I can't say there's no risk that it wouldn't be challenged. I mean, anybody with a filing fee can obviously.
Sure,
But I do think that in light of, for example, If you go back and look at the Lillian Green case, back when the charter was first implemented, and then the clerk of court argued that she had a right to continue in her position. And the court, one of the points they made, the appeals court made in that case, is that what you have done is abolished all of these elected positions, all of these statutory elected positions under the authority that we have to implement a charter in Article 10 of the Constitution. So what we're doing here then is, and the only reason the other pieces of general law apply now is because our charter says they do. And in my opinion, we can pick and choose the portions of general law applicable to an elected sheriff that we want to apply to our appointed sheriff. So by excising this one portion that says they have to have lived in the county for a year prior to being appointed is something I think we entirely have the right to do under the Constitution when we formulated our own charter.
Any questions for the law director, perhaps by others, or to anyone else? Councilman Sean?
Had we gone with the other provision that would have said we had an elected sheriff, what would be the requirement?
Through the chairman to the councilman, the current revised code requires that the sheriff does reside within the county or live within the county 1 year prior to being elected.
So all this is, the way it's drafted, is merely doing exactly what would have been done as far as this position had it been gone through the other charter amendment that would have been an elected sheriff.
Excuse me, no.
No? Okay, what is the difference then?
As she said, if we had gone with an elected sheriff, there would have been a requirement that that person who stands for election would have lived in the county for 1 year prior to standing for election.
Right.
And we have interpreted that as being applied to an appointed sheriff as well.
No, I got that. But if we would have gone with the elected sheriff, we would have lived with the 1 year living in the county prior to the election requirements the other 87 counties have, right?
Right, that was just already an existing.
Right, the existing, it would have been, we would have just fallen in line with the elected sheriff provisions of the other 87 counties.
Correct, but this gives us the ability to,
I get what this is doing. I just
Okay.
want to confirm that had we gone that route, we would have been doing exactly what we are currently, at least the one that we before amended has in place. That you would have had to live in the county for
we
1
would
year.
have been electing per general law, yes.
Yes, that's my point. We're not, this is the change that was being advocated outside of the general law
Yes,
for this, as opposed to doing what all the other 87 counties did, and what all the other sheriffs that stood up here and testified why we should have gone that route, all would have been elected sheriffs in their county for 1 year prior, and they would have been living in their county.
that's correct.
Very clear.
Hey, Councilman Jones, and then
Legislation makes sense to me in that
Councilman Stevens. then
when it was an elected official, you want your elected official to live in your community. But now that it's an appointed, it does provide the administration the opportunity to search a wider pool for a professional to fill that position.
I think you make an excellent point, Councilman, rather than just within your own county, but it opens up the opportunity to other borders and other opportunities for widening that pool.
Councilwoman Stevens, and then Councilwoman Simon.
I obviously have a problem with this anyway, but what is to ensure that this person lives in Cuyahoga County after we've allowed them to live someplace else during the selection process? Will they ever move into Cuyahoga County? I have a problem with a sheriff living in someplace else and then serving in this county. This elected official, this appointed official needs to be in Cuyahoga County. I don't like that rule that says that if they live in a contiguous county and they're within 30 or 45 minutes drive, it's the same as. No, it's not the same as. And my experience leads me to strongly believe that sheriffs and police officers who live in the jurisdiction which they serve have a greater commitment to that jurisdiction. And so I have a problem with this.
Okay, well, state law is also state law. Yeah, well, that's certainly an opinion that I'm not going to debate you about. Councilwoman Simon.
Thank you very much.
much. My experience serving in a municipal city with safety forces who live outside the city have shown no difference in their commitment to the job they do. And in District 11, we have very committed safety forces who don't necessarily live in those particular cities. And I don't doubt that a sheriff that comes to Cuyahoga County, whether they reside here or not, would show any different level of commitment to this community. And in fact, what this does is we'll broaden the pool throughout the state, or have somebody who we would not otherwise be able to get, a quality sheriff to come here and not restrict us to those who reside here. I think this is a great opportunity for us to expand our pool and bring in qualified, committed people to serve in this county. And I think we'll be able to see the impact of that. So yes, this is consistent with the quality we seek, and this is consistent with the charter that was approved by this council, and I think it's, I totally would support this.
If I could, Councilman, I think, as you said, this significantly opens up the candidate pool for us for that particular position, obviously.
I would say that, you know, I agree that we would be in a better position if we open up the candidate pool. So I'm with you on that. My only, hesitation is in any way putting the charter amendment that we've already sent over to the Board of Elections in any kind of jeopardy, because too much work went into all of this for there to be any kind of jeopardy for that charter amendment, as far as I'm concerned. Councilwoman Baker, had several people go ahead.
President, so we're going to take one county and expand it. So we are limited, though, because this person has to be able to drive to get to. So there is no national search. There's not another state search. This is limited to someone who, for the amount of money that they would be making, probably won't move. Well, he may, but he may not, he or she. Got it? So what are we expanding to? So we have Cuyahoga County with so many eligible candidates who fit the criteria. So expanding out beyond that border, how many more would you think reasonably do we have that could apply for this job?
So if the Councilwoman, if this were to pass in front of you today and pass with the voters, this would allow, we could expand to a national search. We could search anywhere within contiguous counties or Ohio, because there wasn't a requirement prior to the person holding that position that they be a resident within this county. If not, then we are obviously limited by residents within the county.
But what I'm
For
saying
right
is
now.
that logistically, unless they move, it has to be within an area that they can reasonably drive back and forth to their job and back home again. So, we're not a national search. It doesn't sound like that's something that we need to do. We need to do it within the boundaries of what is logistically makes sense for them to live and work either inside or outside the county.
I think, as you said, if it was someone who was not to move and were to keep their current residence, then, as the law director stated, it would be Cuyahoga and contiguous counties.
Councilman Gallagher has indicated he wants to ask a question, and I think some people want to come back. Councilman Gallagher, and then the county executive would like to comment.
I sit and I watch and I wonder where this came from. And I'm wondering if it was for a broader selection of individuals to be Sheriff of Cuyahoga County, or was it after the fact that we announced we were doing a nationwide search, not realizing the law? I will tell you, I'm not going to vote for this, and I'm just going to be very clear about it. I think we've already ignored every single law enforcement officer, organization in this county when it came to electing a sheriff. And now we're sending a red flag up that there's nobody in Cuyahoga County worth a damn. We got to do a nationwide search and what's the total? 126, 130?
I think, Councilman, it's approximately $130,000.
who's going to make a hell of a lot less than other people in the administration. So I wonder where it came from. Was it just because it's a good idea, or we get our tail caught in the door and we're just going to throw this on the pile? And nationwide searches that I've seen since I've been here have brought us some pretty good people and have brought us some pretty interesting folks altogether also. I think there are plenty of retired and still working law enforcement officers in Cuyahoga County that would qualify to be a sheriff of this county, that know this county. There's nothing more important than knowing the land in which you're going to rule. We've seen it with some of our friends. My good friend Dave Greenspan. He had a very difficult time earlier on, but he wasn't from here, and then he figured it out. Cuyahoga County's different from everywhere else. Cuyahoga County's different from Medina County, Summit County, Lake County, Geauga County, Timbuktu County. We got enough talent in this county. I am comfortable with the talent in this county. I know the people in this county that would be qualified to do this. I'm not certain if they're interested in doing it because of what's going on in this county. And 87 out of 88 counties get it right. But somehow we're going to set the bar at a different level and be better than 87 counties. I highly doubt it. Our track record is not good. So I cannot support this. I think we've ignored the pleas of law enforcement long enough.
Thank you, Councilman. I just want to remind the council that given that this is a charter change amendment, that it would take 11 votes to do this. Mr. County Executive.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would just respond to a couple things. First, to Councilwoman Stevens' comment. Council still has the right to confirm, so if a candidate comes before you and you don't think it's appropriate, you don't have to vote for that. And to the comment made by Councilwoman Baker, where right now the audit committee is going through a search for an auditor, and the two lead candidates happen to both be from out of state. Both indicated a willingness to move to Cuyahoga County, and both for in the same arena of dollars. So there are people, at least for the jobs here, would consider moving.
Through the chair to Brandy, and that was my concern, like the president. How will this, if it's passed today, what you're proposing, this resolution, how will this impact our charter amendment that's already been sent to the Board of Elections? What will we have to do?
If I may, Mr. Chairman, if you take a look at your packet, basically, this amendment was tailored around the amendment that's already been approved by council.
Okay.
So I just kind of reformatted the first.
But we've already made the deadline, correct?
No, not if this would have to be approved today in order to get to the Board of Elections. Actually, they asked for it tomorrow when I talked to them earlier today.
I think actually, the clerk of council, Ms. Schmatzer, had told me if it were to be approved, that she herself was going to the Board of Elections that after this to take it directly to them. Is that correct, clerk?
It is if it meets the 4:30 time deadline, so probably first thing in the morning if it should pass.
Okay, and so then my second thing is, I'm okay with opening up to more people applying for jobs, but we already have that. Anyone can apply from out of state for jobs. I mean, take for example, our medical examiner, Dr. Gilson did. I mean, he applied and he willingly moved here. So, whereas I can agree with opening it up to more candidates, I don't think this legislation is going to stop anybody from wanting to do that. I'm not in favor of it the way it is now, because my main concern is, yes, I don't want to sanction anyone, and people can live where they choose to want to live, but we also want to promote Cuyahoga County residents and being able to have jobs. I mean, that's our main mission is what we do. We pass legislation in terms of giving individual contractors points for living in Cuyahoga County. Everything that we've done so far has always pointed in that direction, and I think this is kind of changing it a little.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna comment, Councilman, and unfortunately, I don't have the exact numbers in front of you, but when we did post recently for the deputy chief's position in the sheriff's office, that vacancy, there were a number of applicants that were in fact outside of the county. And if you recall, one of the offers was inside of the county, and it was unfortunately a declined offer.
Given the nature of where we find ourselves and what I've heard, I would like to review with the members of the council, but particularly it's easier to count concerns and objections, I think, than at this point, but the floor is open. But if members are opposed to this legislation for any reason, I would appreciate it, given the situation we're in. We're at a deadline to turn this into the Board of Elections, that members say that they are opposed for whatever reason, or no reason at all. But I mean, I'm hearing what people are saying. I'm just trying to count the votes. It's not clear to me, so Councilwoman Simon, given everything that you've heard, are you comfortable with this amendment?
I'm mildly comfortable.
Councilwoman Stevens? No. Councilwoman Brown?
I would respect the wishes of the sponsor.
Very interesting. Councilwoman Jones?
I do support this legislation, and I do support the legislation, and commend the executive just for putting forward this path that we've gone down. It just shows that the administration, law department looked at what was voted on and found a way, in my estimation, to add value to it. So I do support it.
I would say no, but I don't think that would stop anyone from outside the county applying. And then when it goes back to what the state law says, in particular, that all sheriffs live in the county that they serve, so I'd have to say no.
No, I'll not be supporting.
Councilman Gallagher, you've already made yourself clear. Well, we've already got, I can count to 4. And so if anybody has any more to say on this, that's fine, because I am for this concept. I am mildly concerned, as Councilwoman Simon said, about some unintended consequences here. And so, thank you, Councilman.
Yeah,
And we appreciate all the work that you've done on this for a very long period of time.
Thank you, Mr. President. As one of the primary sponsors, I think it's appropriate to speak up. You know, I want the best possible candidate for this position, like we all do. And I believe that if opening it up and allowing somebody from somewhere else around the country to apply for the job, it makes it the top tier candidate, the best candidate out there, then I would have no objection to this legislation. I too share the council president's concern, as well as Ms. Simon's concern about this doing anything to undermine the original legislation, and the state law being in potentially conflict in any way, in some remote way, bothers me. But I believe that state law is in referencing the elected sheriff, and I don't know the applicability here. But again, I want the best possible candidate. That it means allowing this amendment to go forward, then I would be in favor of that, as long as we don't do anything to undermine the nature of the original law. And one of the things I have to say too is, as the county executive correctly pointed out, part of what this new legislation does is it allows us to have legislative oversight, and it allows us to be involved in the appointment process and fully engage any candidate that's out there. So I think some of these fears might be alleviated if you look back at the original legislation and the intent going into the original legislation. So,
Thank you,
that's my 2
Councilman.
cents.
Councilman Miller.
Mr. Chairman and my colleagues, my belief is that without this legislation, it is murky as to whether a person from outside of the county could apply. With this legislation, it provides clarity and takes advantage of the appointed system, which we've decided upon to create a potentially broader pool. So I'm a yes.
Just to wrap it, I guess, I think that we aren't excluding Cuyahoga County. We're only adding competition. So it's not that the best and finest can't come forward and apply for this job. It is that we have competition, that we may find somebody superior that we wouldn't have the opportunity to hire if we didn't open it up. But certainly our best can still apply, and we still can choose someone from Cuyahoga County. We're just expanding the horizon. I will say, though, that I think as we go outside of Cuyahoga County and keep going farther out, the opportunity to have the best and finest move or apply gets less and less. And there can't be any, incentives of, we'll give you this if you come. We like you this much that we want you to come. There can't be any moving expenses or any kind of incentives that we really like this guy that lives out in Indiana, but there's no way he's going to come unless we make it a better deal than $130,000 a year. And that, I think, is what we're going to perhaps run into and have to be very careful that we aren't drawn into that, and do the best we can with those that logistically can work and maybe not live in Cuyahoga County. But I think competition is healthy, and if that's what we're doing, I would be in support.
Okay, well, I think that competition is healthy too. Where we find ourselves is that we have a majority of the council willing to support the amendment, but not the number that we need of a supermajority to put this on the ballot as an amendment to the charter. And given the lateness of the date, it would be my decision to, I could call the roll, but I don't see the point in that unless someone wants to make a motion to do that. I don't want to stifle that, but I can count. And so it would be my decision to hold this legislation at this time. And I think that's where we find ourselves at this late date. So thank you very much. Thank you for your efforts, and thank everybody for your opinions and well thought out and concerns. So.
Thank you, Councilman, and there's no doubt we'll find an excellent and really great sheriff here in Cuyahoga County even without this. So thank you, and thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you. So we'll hold this legislation. Clerk, would you please read the legislation, the next resolution?
Resolution number 2019-0178, ratifying and authorizing a settlement with Allergan in the total amount of $3,100,000 in the matter of In Re National Prescription Opiate Litigation, United States District Court, Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division, case number 1, 2017, MD 02804, authorizing the county executive and/or his designee to execute the settlement agreement and any related documentation, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second. Obviously, we have discussed this in the executive committee, and if there's no more discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. And then the companion piece.
Resolution number 2019-0179, ratifying and authorizing a settlement between the counties of Cuyahoga and Summit and Endo Pharmaceuticals Incorporated in the total amount of $10 million in cash and $1 million in product in the matter of In Re National Prescription Opiate Litigation, United States District Court, Northern District of Ohio, Eastern Division, case number 1, 2017, MD 02804, authorizing the county executive and/or his designee to execute the settlement agreement and any related documentation, and declaring the necessity that this resolution become immediately effective.
Move to adopt.
Second. This was the other item we discussed in executive committee. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. The resolution is adopted. Any miscellaneous business? Hearing none. This special council meeting is adjourned.